Thomas here and welcome back to another video. So today we're back here for another speed build, and today I'm going to be showing you how I built the forest starter home in The Sims 4 Cottage Living. So in case you missed it, I was actually lucky enough to be given the opportunity to build 3 houses to ship with The Sims 4 Cottage Living expansion pack. So if you haven't seen the speed builds of the other houses, those are up on the channel now. So there's the 50 by 40 country home, and there's also the 30 by 20 village starter home. So as you can see, we are actually in the village though, but this is the forest starter home. In case you've seen the village starter home video, I was explaining how the 2 lots actually swapped. So where that other build ended up is here, and this build got moved to where the other build actually first started. So this is going to be the forest starter home, but it's in the village, and it was kind of close to the end of the building process in May, and the Sims team suggested the idea about switching the 2 lots around, which I thought was a nice idea. I think they both fit really well where they are, and yeah, so more about that shortly, but just a few little disclaimers to get out of the way. The footage you're seeing here is not final software, so just to let you know, this is subject to change by the time the pack comes out. So this build changes so much. It's kind of completely different to what you see at the start of this video. So it was, I mean, aside from the fact that it's in a different place, the actual build structure changed so much. So I kind of played around in general with all my builds in terms of structure, kind of doing something then starting again, but this one I kind of kept the same, but it just changed so much over time. So it was actually 2 stories. They had 2 bedrooms upstairs, and basically it was kind of like, it had like a sloping roof, which I kind of like the look of, but as I said, this is a starter home, and it's not just the pricing restrictions. There's so many other things to kind of keep in mind when you're building with EA restrictions. So anyway, I kind of just had to make the house smaller, which helped a lot with reducing the price. So it just ended up being a 1-story home instead. So as you can see, there's the upstairs. I was going to kind of cut this all out because it's kind of pointless, because it's not the actual build anymore. But I thought I'll just include it so you can kind of see how things changed, and just kind of gives you a bit more of an idea of my process. But as you can just see upstairs, like when I was building it, I knew it was kind of just cramped up here. Like this bedroom is tiny. It had a lot of different kind of pop outs and things, which made it kind of difficult to fill. And I knew that room was just kind of very difficult, and it gave us a headache trying to make it work. So as you can see, I did actually take that out and put a bathroom there instead, and then just that 1 bedroom. But yeah, so it kind of changed a lot as time went on, but you know, I'm really happy how it turned out in the end, because as you would have saw, it did have like a little farm area as well. So there's an animal pen and also a chicken coop, and it's all like in a fenced off area separate to the house. And I think this house is about 17,500 simoleons, which is not bad at all. It looks really big, like there's a lot on the actual lot itself. So I think that worked out really well. But the house is kind of just like a tiny home. But you know, saying that, you've still got some space, like you've got a nice kitchen table, you've got a full kitchen there as well, your living room and your bedroom of course, in the bathroom. But I really love the landscaping in this build. One of the things with like the village starter home, for example, but that was in the forest, it was going to be like kind of an overgrown build, with lots of plants kind of just overgrown it. But in terms of like all the builds in general, like if you saw the 50 by 40 country home, that was just full to the brim of plants everywhere, and that kind of followed on here as well, keeping it very luscious with lots of flowers and stuff. So that's also what I did here. And as you can see, the lot kind of like comes around from the side here where you see the red gate. That's kind of the front of the lot. What as you can see is also stairs, but I was lucky enough to get the Sims team to be able to change where the gallery sort of takes the picture of the lot. So where the gate is now, that classes as the front of the build. So that kind of happens a little bit later down the line. But as you can see, I'm now changing up the build a bit. In case you haven't heard of my previous videos, we kind of had like the game, and then we'll do like our work. We'll then hand it in after, I think every 2 weeks, we'll have a Zoom call with the Sims team we'll kind of review everybody's builds, and then we'll get a document basically with some annotations or things that we could consider for making changes, and this was one of them. It's a pretty big change, but I think it was really worth it. I love how all these builds turned out in the end, so I'm really glad, for all the feedback we got during the process. So this house isn't occupied, but it does have a name called Cordelia's Secret Cottage, if you hover over the build on the map. But with all my builds, they are unoccupied, so they are fairly neutral. But one thing I did try to incorporate as I went on during the process was to include more colour in the builds, and this one is definitely very colourful inside, so I use a lot of red. As you know, I do really like to use red, and then I use the red counters. I really do love the kitchen items in this pack, and I use different colours in each of my builds. So in the country home I use the yellow colour swatch, and then in the village one I think I just used one of the neutral browns, and then this one I used red. But as you can see, the red kind of runs throughout the build. So the gate has a red colour swatch, the kitchen's red, there's an armchair in the bedroom that's red, and then I also used one of the new wallpapers as a feature wall in the kitchen, which is red as well. And you may have seen that from the beginning in the little video tour. But yeah, so I'm kind of just working on the outside now. We've kind of done the main structure change, so that kind of stays where it is. And then I kind of wanted it to blend a little bit, so you kind of got the house on this side, and then you've got the farm bit on the other side, and they're kind of very distinct areas. So just trying to find a way to kind of blend them together, because they kind of just seem very separate, as if they were on two separate lots. So that was a challenge to kind of come up with an idea to do that. But I just made the sort of terrain paints kind of flow nicely between the two, and then I landscaped it quite heavily as well, which I mentioned in my village starter was very much of a challenge with these starter homes, because as you know, in The Sims 4, plants are very expensive, but I was quite lucky because the Sims team was able to reduce the price of all the plants in-game quite significantly, which made making these starter homes with still having that kind of overgrown, luscious feel with all the plants, it made it possible, which is really nice. So yeah, as I said, that was one of the things I did, and then I kind of put some of those new crop squares. There's probably a better word for it, I can't think of. Basically, the new planter boxes, which are just dirt for the ground. I put some of those against the side of the animal pen fence, so that kind of helped blend everything together a bit. But yeah, so we're kind of just filling in with some more things that I can, with keeping in the restrictions of the price. But as you can also, as I was saying, the EA restrictions, there's things that kind of bump up the simulation cost. So things that are kind of interactive, like computers or even kitchen counters where they have a lot of slots in them to put stuff, those kind of bump up the performance as well. So one of the things we had to consider was making sure that all the lots would work on every type of computer that runs The Sims 4. So that's why the builds are very simple. As I've mentioned before, if I could have no restrictions, I'd put a lot more clutter and stuff into these builds, but there was a lot of restrictions I had to keep in mind, so I couldn't go crazy on stuff. But as I said in my other videos, I want to do a little renovation of my builds with other packs, because I only have base game and cottage living. So that would be kind of interesting to see how I'd do differently if I didn't have any restrictions. But yeah, so the kitchen counters, I don't think I did any sort of clutter on them. I think I did little bits here and there, but then going back through and kind of optimizing the build to kind of reduce the price, I had to take things out here and there. But overall I still think it's a really nice build, and in the end, with all the terrain paint and flowers and stuff, I think it looks really nice and full. So this is the last voiceover I'm doing for my 3 builds. You may have seen them in a different order, but now they're all out, let me know what you think of my 3 builds, which one of the 3 is your favourite. It's definitely very hard for me to decide that, because they are things I've worked on for months and months and months, so it's very hard to decide personally. But I'll be interested to hear what's your favourite, and are you going to play in any of these builds? Let me know. I know a few other game changers have been playing in them while we've been testing this build through early access, so it's been really weird to see other people playing in my builds, even though that's kind of happens when people download from the gallery. But it's really different when it's actually in the game. It's a really surreal feeling that even to be presented with this opportunity is just crazy. To think I started my channel 6 years ago, it's just crazy to think that I'll be given this opportunity, because I've said this from the beginning that my one ultimate goal is to be able to build a house for an actual Sims game, and that dream's come true, and it still really hasn't sank in yet. And I think the other game changers have said this as well. But yeah, it's just a surreal thing to be a part of, and I'm really thankful for it. So we're just working on some final touches now. I did end up adding in some of these like thatch roof pieces, and what I really love is the roof decorations that they added with these. So you'll see shortly, hopefully I included it in the footage, but I added in like a fox and a rabbit kind of chasing each other, which I thought was really, really funny to see. So you'll see that shortly. So we're just doing some final touches here, then we're going to move the build to the forest area instead, and I think it looks much nicer up there. And also the world is just absolutely amazing. Like the village looks great, and then when you're on the forest, which we are now, and you kind of look at the view, it's just really amazing seeing the landscape. So at this point I've pretty much done everything with the build. It's now just kind of going back through and making any final touches before handing the build for the final time, which, as I mentioned in my other videos, was like really like scary because you're not going to get the build back, and like I said, this may be my only opportunity to do this kind of thing, so I was just made sure it was as best as I could get it, and I was just going back through and fiddling with things so much, but in the end I'm so happy how it turned out. But yeah, so I'm going to leave the video here. I really hope you enjoyed. In the comment section down below, let me know about what you thought of it. If you have any more suggestions for things you want to see with Cottage Living in terms of other builds, let me know. Leave a like, share and subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!